One of the oldest Northwest classics is A Cat with Nine Lives. The 90-year-old, 36-foot raised-deck cruiser GloryBe has just survived another brush with catastrophe. According to owner Betsy Davis, buying a slice of Northwest history was a choice she made largely on impulse.
Well, it wasn't a particularly rational decision. I think I've always been drawn to the aesthetic of the classic boats.
To learn the nuts and bolts of caring for a nautical icon, Davis enrolled in the wooden boat building course at Seattle Central Community College. It's a venerable program established in 1936. Dave Mullins is lead instructor.
We're training the shipwrights of the present and the future. No, it's not a lost art. There's a lot of cookie-cutter boats out there that really aren't made by boat builders, but there's a lot of good boat work that still goes into those cookie-cutter boats. The yards are just screaming for skilled help right now. The overall skill level in the trades is going down, and the demand is going up. In particular, they want woodworking skill because although they're fiberglass super yachts, the woodwork inside is thousands of hours of woodwork to do inside the boats.
Mullins is a vestige of Northwest nautical history himself, having learned the trade from some of the icons of Northwest boat building.
I'm a graduate of this program, and the boat school used to be right next door to Vic Frank's. And when I graduated from the boat school, I went next door and went to work at Vic Frank's and apprenticed there when we were still building wood boats. That's all we did is build wood boats. After 4.5 years at Vic's, I moved over to the Blanchard yard.
Davis and Mullins would form an uncommon partnership during the resurrection of the GloryBe. The venerable old boat had had its first brush with catastrophe shortly after it was constructed at the Taylor-Grandy yard on Vashon Island in 1914.
She actually had a wild first 10 years. When she was 3 years old, there was this huge storm in Tacoma, and apparently all these boats were totally destroyed. She was thrown against the rocks, lost her skeg, lost planks, lost all sorts of things, had to get towed 5 miles underwater with only her stack showing, and was repaired. That's in 1917.
Not long afterward, the unattended vessel broke free of her moorings and drifted across the treacherous Strait of Georgia to Point Roberts, where she was discovered unscathed.
She made it across the straits on her own. So, I mean, you know, if a boat has 9 lives or whatever, she's just had a charmed life in some way.
The 14th owner of the vessel, Davis, bought her in the late 1990s. In January 2002, disaster struck. A fire consumed the Seattle Yacht Club's Dock 3, destroying 13 boats and severely damaging 10 others. Davis, who lives near the marina, returned home unaware of the conflagration until she discovered that her street was blocked with fire trucks. Her neighbors gave her the news. The GloryBe was a charred cinder on the bottom of Portage Bay.
I was totally numb, disbelieving. Most of the fire was over by the time I was there, and I just kind of kept walking down throughout the night and looking and trying to take it in. I grieved the loss of GloryBe in a way similar that people who lose someone close to them.
Davis asked Mullins to be at her side as the ruined hulls were lifted off of the bottom in case there were any questions that required his expertise, and he watched as a barge and crane crew raised the wrecks. The fiberglass boats, which Mullins calls the Tupperware, were ruined.
Tupperware, just a bunch of fuzzy frivets, floating around in the water. There wasn't nothing left to save.
The GloryBe was different.
The defining moment for me with the GloryBe was when Foss Maritime brought her up. She was laying on her beam ends, laying on her side, submerged. They actually brought the boat 10 feet out of the water and they dropped the slings up from under to bring her on her keel. And she was floating. And of all the boats that were on the bottom, she's the only one that had any chance of floating in.
They dropped her and she slapped on the water and she floated. By Jove, after all that had happened, she floated, and within minutes there were people crawling on top of her, attaching wires so she could be lifted up.
She was charred through, but still structurally inside the salon and the stateroom in this boat, it's the original joiner work. It's the original varnish. Didn't suffer any damage inside in some places.
Mullins and Davis conceived a plan to try and save her, and the 90-year-old lady arrived at the wooden boat construction facility.
And the general comment when this boat first came in the shop was like, what were you thinking to bring this thing in here? It was just a big black charcoal mess. You know, I see the pictures now and I ask myself what were we thinking when we brought it in, but the students really turned to and done a great job. I mean, I'd put this work up against any of the professional yards, a lot of the work they performed here.
I am really happy with the workmanship. I think I definitely am asked, a bunch of students worked on your boat, aren't you worried? And I think what people don't realize is that the students in this program are so motivated, and they're here because they want to be here and they want to work on boats. And this is a beautiful boat. It could sound trite, but I have to say, what started as a tragedy actually turned out to be a good thing. For me, for the boat, for the school. The boat is going to be ready for the next century now.